be a lot of confusion about what positive reinforcement is, so I'm going to break it down for you today so that you know what it means and how it works too. So when we're talking about positive reinforcement, we're talking about two different things. Something positive, meaning in this case something that has been added, and something that is reinforcing. So let's take that in, we're going to break that down, take it in those two different sections. So positive. Positive means that we're adding something when we're talking about behavior. So it's not the feel-good positive that we talk about in our daily lives. It's different. So it literally means positive, like in math. So 1 plus 2, we're adding 2, and it's a positive number. I am not good at math, so if I'm saying that wrong, somebody write to me. But it's positive, and we're adding it, okay? So that's another way of thinking of positive as an addition. What are we adding to the situation? And when we're talking about adding something, we're specifically talking about something that is pleasant, that somebody or some horse might seek out, that they want that thing. So whenever we're talking about adding something and we're talking about reinforcement, it's always about adding something that makes them want more of it. So as an example, in your life, you may like going to your favorite restaurant because you get something that you like. So food is added to your life and it's delicious, and so you are seeking that out and you want more of that. So that leads us to reinforcement. What is reinforcement? Reinforcement is anything that makes a behavior stronger. So if hi. So if I want a horse to spend more time with me, then I want to do something that's reinforcing. So for this horse, maybe it's give him some food or scratch his neck. But here's what we have to really consider when we're talking about reinforcement. When we're talking about reinforcement, is it actually something that reinforces a behavior? So what does that mean? So what that means is, does that behavior get more frequent, stronger? Is your animal, your human person wanting to do that more? Then it's being reinforced. So if we're doing something like giving our horse a treat just because they're cute, totally fine. If that works for you and your horse, that's totally fine. So they're getting something because they're cute, but cute's not really a behavior, so we're not reinforcing anything. And that's where we get into kind of the confusion about positive reinforcement. It's like, I just give my horses treats when they're good and I don't give them to them when they're bad, or sometimes I just randomly give them a treat. That's great, and that might be totally fine, but it doesn't mean you're using positive reinforcement, because what behavior are you reinforcing? Are you reinforcing a behavior that your horse, in this case, is wanting to do again? So if not, it's just giving a treat. It's just a feel-good moment, and they're going to make a connection with you as being somebody who gives treats, but they may not be making that connection with a specific behavior. So this horse is actually hanging out with me, but sometimes when he comes in the round pen, he gets a little bit nervous and he wanders off. So one thing I could do with him, if he were to wander off, and what I'll do is I'm going to walk away. I'm going to put some food for him over here. See if he'll come get it. Good boy. Okay. So he went over there to get some food, and let's say I want to reinforce the behavior of spending time with me, being near me. So if he comes back and I do this, the odds are he's going to be more interested in coming back to see me again. So let's conduct an experiment. Good boy. It's set him up to have the opportunity to come back to me if he wants to, and also the opportunity for me to reinforce that behavior. So he may or he may not, but if he does, I'll reinforce it. And he's not, and that's perfectly fine. So that opportunity is not there, but it may come shortly. I think I hear footsteps. Nice job, bud. Good job. So now I have the opportunity to reinforce that behavior again. So we're gonna continue with this experiment. I'm gonna take him back over there again. Let's see if he comes back a little bit more quickly now that he's been reinforced a couple of times. The first time he was just at this close box, but so it may not really be kicking into his head yet what's going on, but we'll just see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so he came back a lot quicker. So this behavior is now being reinforced. We can say that that's happening. And behaviors can be reinforced quickly or slowly over time. Good job, sir. What a good job. Okay, so now we need to talk about what is reinforcing for your horse. Sometimes we think we're doing something that's super reinforcing and that for them, they either have no interest in it whatsoever or it's actually aversive, meaning that they don't like it. So one of the things that that we like to do with our horses, because we're very enthusiastic creatures, is we like to pat them on the neck. Good job, good job. Well, it's been discovered, get that bug out of there, that we got a wasp out today. It's been discovered that that is aversive to horses, that they don't like the patting. They like food is one thing. Oh, here you go. So that's very reinforcing for a horse. Horses usually like food. So if we give them food, then that is a feel-good thing for them. Good job. And also, wither scratches could be reinforcing. A favorite behavior could be reinforcing. Giving the horse some time off or some distance can be reinforcing. Food is not the only reinforcer. Some people use praise. Good job, you did such a good job. Not necessarily a strong reinforcer. If you use that and then your horse is like, oh, that was really cool, I got praise, I'm going to work harder next time to do that behavior, then it's reinforcing, but it's not likely to be reinforcing by itself. If you pair it with a more powerful reinforcer like food, then you got something going on. So if I tell him, you are such a good boy, he's like, just give me the food. Stop talking, give me the food. Now he might have a good scratchy spot, and I might do that for a little bit, and that can be a reinforcer, and that can work with horses that are hard to reinforce with food for some reason, but they have to like it. And so here, when I'm working with horses that have a lot of trauma and abuse, or clients' horses that we're trying to change their emotional state, touch is sometimes absolutely not an option. So he's pretty touchy in the with his face, but he's a little more excited about having some food. Come here, you. Come over here for a little bit. Actually, we'll take him all the way to the back here. What a good boy. All right, so, let's see if I get picked up again here. Okay, here we go. All right, so walking over to that mounting block is getting reinforced because I keep putting food on there every time he comes to it. So I'm going to let him come to me because I want to reinforce him being with me. Good job. And there he is. Very nice. It's a little challenging for him to have me not pay attention to him and to be focusing on the camera. So he got I don't know if you noticed, but before we walked off to the mounting block, he got a little agitated, a little, he's starting to come over for food and trying to get my attention because this is unusual for him. So what I'm going to do is acknowledge that and say, okay, I'm just going to give you food because you're not getting my attention, and that could be aversive for him because he's used to having my attention when we come down here to work. So we'll just feed him, and then I can talk to you, and then he's happy. Okay, so things that are reinforcing, it could be having a chance to go roll or graze or hang out with friends. There's so many options. Play with a ball, hey, you did that behavior, go get your ball, let's play with that. There's just unlimited amounts of opportunities to reinforce our horses. The reason why we usually use food is because food usually doesn't have any negative associations with it, and it's usually just very reinforcing inherently. So he's just happy hanging out here having food. If I scratched him or let him do some other behavior that he wanted to do, probably isn't going to have the same impact, especially for a horse again that has some issues and lacks confidence, has trouble, like if they're not sure what they're supposed to do, that's stressful for them. So like right now you can see he's pretty happy. He's got his ears are forward, he's just hanging out, he's checking out his environment. He's a happy guy because now I'm just giving him food. So that's the best solution in this situation for this particular horse. And I also want him to be drawn to me and be reinforced for being around me. So win-win all the way, right, bud? Good job. I know, you're such a good boy. Okay, so let's start putting all of these things together. We've got positive, which means we're adding something. And in this situation, I'm adding food. There's the food. Okay, so that's positive. The reinforcement part is this behavior, and in this case, hanging out with me, going to be made stronger and more likely to occur again? Yeah, I'm going to say so. So let's experiment. Let's try this again. I'm going to actually take him someplace different. Let's see if we get a similar response. So he's pretty happy to hang out with me when I walk away. Give him some water. Give him some food. And I don't think it's something that you can see on the camera, but he's leaving food on the mounting block, and he probably left some in that dish too. Good job. Good job. So the food is not, it's the reinforcer, but once the behavior starts to become locked in and more consistent, the food doesn't have as much power behind it. And we'll talk more about that in other videos. But it's really important to remember that when we're talking about positive reinforcement, what are we adding? Okay? And what are we reinforcing, if anything? So he's looking away. There's a cat walking up the driveway. He's looking at it. So now every time he brings his attention back to me, I'm going to reinforce that with the food again. And one more thing to think about, and we're going to talk about clicker training in other videos and how that works. You notice I haven't marked him for anything. So if you're familiar with clicker training, the way it works is a behavior happens, we mark the behavior, and then we give something that makes that behavior get stronger again. So a reinforcer, right? And in this case, a positive reinforcer. So if we're not marking the behavior, we are still reinforcing it. The mark just tells them what the behavior is that we want to reinforce. And I actually did mark it when he came over here because I asked him to station. Let's see if we can get it back up. Okay, so I just marked that. And now I'm going to ask him to station. He's a little excited. Okay, so that worked out really nicely. I'm using positive reinforcement to tell him to keep his head, to station with his head straight. But I use the marker signal to tell him when he was doing the thing that I want him to do, okay? So we'll get into that more another time. But the positive reinforcement is something that I want to make sure you are crystal clear on. So you're like, yes, I'm using positive reinforcement, or no, I'm not using positive reinforcement. I'm just feeding my horse, right? And technically right now, I'm just feeding this horse. He's here, and I'm just making this a happy moment for him. So remember the two criteria for positive reinforcement. Are you adding something that your horse finds appealing? And is the behavior that that food is associated with getting, well, sorry, I said food. It doesn't have to be that. Whatever you're adding, whatever your reinforcer is it making that behavior more likely to happen again, or make the behavior stronger? Is it actually reinforcing a behavior? So are we adding something, or are we reinforcing a behavior? If those two things are happening, then we are doing the positive reinforcement way of communicating with our horse. We're using positive reinforcement, and we're using it correctly. If we're doing something entirely different, there are a whole lot of other ways to communicate that are still very compassionate and welfare-centered, but it may not be positive reinforcement, and that's fine. And we'll definitely, I'll be talking about that in other videos as well. So just keep an eye out for the videos that match what you're doing with your horse, the way you're communicating, or to learn a new way to communicate with your horse. All right, so let's do this one more time. So there's that back up one more time, which I marked him for. I'm going to see if we can do that again. Good boy. What a good boy. Good job. Okay. So did we reinforce that behavior? It was about the same both times. It was a little sluggish, not super motivated, so we're going to reset for that. Oh, we have definitely reinforced head straight because his head didn't come toward me that time. And now let's try that back up again. Let him chew a little. Okay, that was way more enthusiastic. So I'm going to say that behavior was reinforced, and we did it using positive reinforcement. So I'm going to give him a little snack there, and that is our lesson for today. So now that you know what positive reinforcement is, your homework is to pay attention when you're working with your horse. What are you doing that's positively reinforcing your horse? What are you adding to make a behavior stronger? All right, good luck, and please let me know what you learn, okay? And if you have any questions, give me a shout. You can contact me through our website, purejoyhorsemanship.com. Thanks so much.